Good evening. Andy Stevens with my Module 8 presentation on the legal aspects of teacher evaluation for EDL 851, the evaluation and supervision of school personnel. As I read the 4 articles that were posted in Module 8, I found some key takeaways from each article that I wanted to begin tonight's presentation by summarizing. The first is that a lot of the new evaluation systems that have been developed in the last 10 years or so have been challenged in court. Various cases all over the country that have challenged one aspect or another of various evaluation systems. Unfortunately, most of those lawsuits usually are either dismissed or are unfavorable for the plaintiffs who have brought the suit. After reading the first article and reviewing the cases, that was an alarming takeaway for me, was that most of these lawsuits that have been brought were essentially dismissed, and or the judgment was issued in favor of the defendant. The second article that I reviewed gave me a little bit more understanding of the Race to the Top program that was started in 2009 by the United States Department of Education. And I didn't realize that the Race to the Top program tied a lot of its grants and funding to teacher evaluations and states having a certain type of evaluation for their teachers. Additionally, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has spent over $700 million in an effort to improve teacher evaluation systems in select school districts. The article did not specifically mention which school districts, but just that this philanthropic work was being done. The third article, actually, I'm sorry, this point came from that same article, that these new evaluation systems that are being promoted both by Race to the Top and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are what we call comprehensive evaluation systems. So it's a mixture of annual reviews, some sort of framework analysis and evaluation, and also some component of student data and growth. In Colorado, where I am and where I teach, our new teacher evaluation law states that if you receive 2 or more years of ineffective or negative teacher evaluations, your job status will change and you will be put back on probationary job status. So even if you've been teaching for 25 years, if your evaluator gives you 2 consecutive ineffective evaluations in Colorado, you'll be placed back on probationary status. The next article that I read was the in-depth study that the National Education Association compiled, where they shared their 6 principles for what they feel a teacher assessment or evaluation should contain. I found those 6 principles to be spot on, and I agreed with each one of them. Additionally, they lay out the professional practice for what teachers should be doing and also what evaluators should be doing. And I thought that was really important as well, that there be some recommendations from our kind of national governing body as teachers and our national union to talk about what we should be doing to be better educators and what evaluators should be doing to be better evaluators. And then also that the NEA provides resources for teachers to help understand their evaluation. Again, as a labor group, the NEA obviously is striving to help their teachers and their members and be supportive in any way that they can. The last article that I read talked more about these comprehensive evaluation systems. I will just pause here and mention one of the things I'm enjoying most about this class is learning the different types of evaluation systems. I've taught in the same school in the same district for my entire career, And so it's been really interesting to learn about other evaluation systems that are out there, not just the one that I've used and been subject to for the last 10 years. The article also talked about looked at a study that the NEA conducted, looking at 5 different teacher evaluation systems, and one of them happened to be just down the road from me, about 60 miles, in Denver. Denver Public Schools uses a pay-for-performance type evaluation system where your compensation is directly tied to how you are evaluated. And then lastly, that fourth article that we read and reviewed highlighted 3 key features that they believe should be included in an evaluation system, and what components make an evaluation system well designed and an effective tool. And I thought that was an interesting takeaway as well. So now let's talk a little bit more about my district. I teach in Poudre School District, which is in Fort Collins, Colorado. We're a district of about 30,000 students. And I teach at a high school, Fossil Ridge. We have about 2,000 students and about 110 licensed personnel that have to be evaluated every single year. So teacher evaluations in my school district, Poudre School District, does use a comprehensive evaluation system, which means 50% of my evaluation as a teacher is driven by what we call the 5D rubric. The 5D rubric was a rubric that was developed in partnership with the Washington Leadership for Education Institute. And so every single year they use this rubric, which I'll click on this link here and show you the actual rubric that they use. This is the rubric that every licensed staff member at Fossil Ridge and Poudre School District is graded upon. So you can see it breaks down into 6 different areas: purpose and student engagement, curriculum and pedagogy, assessment for student learning, and then classroom environment and culture. And then within each of those color-coded areas, there are these what they call sub areas or sub categories where we are rated on basically a 0 to 4 scale or a 1 to 4 scale: ineffective, partially effective, effective, and highly effective in each of these areas. And so this rubric was developed in response to a law that was passed in Colorado in 2010 that really reformed the way licensed personnel were evaluated in the state of Colorado. So 50% of my evaluation every year is driven by that 5D rubric. And then the other 50% is driven by essentially showing that my students grew. I am required to give a pre and a post assessment for every class that I teach. And essentially my district looks at my pre and post assessment data, and they compare that to the other classes that are taught. So for example, I teach business economics, and that's a class that's taught all over our district. It's a graduation requirement in my district. And so they look at my pre and post assessment data, and they compare that data to the other business economics teachers. And that's how they use that as an evaluation tool for me. And so as long as my students are showing growth at a relatively consistent rate across the district, then 50% of my evaluation is usually pretty positive. At Fossil Ridge specifically, the evaluation process is a 5-step process. We start in the fall with a goals meeting where we sit down and we talk about both individual and building goals. We look at that 5D rubric that I talked about a moment ago from the previous year, and we use that to help drive our goals, both individually and as a school. And then from there, because I'm on a continuing contract, the law states that I have to be evaluated at least one formal evaluation every single year. So about a week before that observation takes place, there's a pre-observation meeting where you tell your evaluator what the planned lesson is going to be. They ask, do you have any concerns? Are you looking for specific feedback in a particular method, or are you struggling with this class for any reason? And then from there, they actually do the observation. And those observations are usually 30 to 45 minutes in length. And the evaluators all of our administrators have a laptop. They bring those laptops in, and they are basically just note-taking the entire time and just making observations of myself as the teacher, classroom environment, students. Again, all of those rubric categories that you saw a moment ago is what they are trying to record, because then after the observation, we have a post-observation conference where the evaluators share what they observed. And then, again, like any professional setting, areas of strength are highlighted, and areas for growth are documented and talked about. And then the last step occurs at the end of the year. You sit down with your evaluator, and they tell you how they've rated you on your 5D rubric. And they give you then the chance to essentially argue, if you will, or disagree with their ranking. Once you come to an agreement, you talk about your goals and if those were met. And then it's just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting it submitted to HR. Now, in Poudre School District, if you feel that your evaluation was unfair, you have two options, essentially. Option number one is try to provide proof that you should be rated higher on the rubric than you were. I think all of the administrators at my school do a really good job of objectively evaluating staff members. So thankfully, I've never had to worry about this. The other option, if you try to change your evaluator's mind and they still disagree, you are allowed to write an official letter to your evaluator that HR will place in your personnel file, basically stating that you officially disagree with the evaluation, and they'll attach it to that rubric and to your official evaluation for the year. If you are being let go or being non-renewed, essentially you can go to our professional association called the Poudre Education Association, and they will provide resources to you, or you can work with the Human Resources Department. However, in an interview that I conducted with my athletic director, who's my evaluator, he basically said in Poudre School District, what the evaluator says is basically held up. And so if the evaluator or the administrator is trying to get rid of you or non-renew your contract, as long as they haven't violated any laws or labor laws, you don't have a lot of recourse in Poudre School District. So that was interesting for me as well to learn. In researching a legal case, there's a hot case going on right now in Denver. Adams 14, which is a large urban district in the metro Denver area, was ordered by the State Board of Education to basically cede all of their daily operations to an outside management company. And so the teachers union sued the district and State Board of Education, claiming that it was unconstitutional for the State Board of Education to allow an external management company to take over the daily instructional and operations of the district. The consulting firm that was hired and approved by the Adams 14 board was set to receive almost $9 million in fees, which was shocking to me. The lawsuit was just filed last week, and so obviously no judgments have been made, but it'll be an interesting case to follow here in the next year or so. Lastly, as a school leader thinking about the legal aspects of evaluation, I would take a three-step approach. Number one, I'd work hand in hand with my HR team. They're the experts in employment law and personnel. I would prioritize personal professional development in evaluations. And then lastly, I would I'd stay up on current events through current educational journals and the like. So That's it for me. Thanks for your time this evening, and hope everybody has a great weekend.